Deadlifts are an overrated muscle building exercise. Yes, you heard it. On this episode, I'm going to break down some overrated and underrated components when it comes to rapidly transforming your body. Now, let me jump right into what I previously mentioned regarding deadlifts. Listen, I love deadlifts. They're a fantastic exercise for building strength, for building power, for getting more athletic. However, just because an exercise is good for one particular goal doesn't mean it's always going to be optimal for another goal. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't do deadlifts. In fact, I still do deadlifts on a regular basis. I'm not primarily in a muscle building phase right now, so I am doing conventional deadlifts, but it doesn't mean that we need to always live and die by the same few exercises. Instead, we need to be able to focus on creating some more, frankly, variations that are optimized for the particular goals that we have at hand. So let me break down this deadlift argument, and then we'll jump into a few more. And so when it comes to deadlifts, yes, you will build a ton of strength, and strength can help you build muscle. When you are doing deadlifts, you're going to be lifting heavy loads, and that's going to help you maximize muscle fiber recruitment, which is going to help you fatigue more muscle fibers later on in your training, which can help build lean muscle. But the issue with an exercise like a conventional deadlift specifically from the floor, is that no muscle group is put under maximal stretch and load. If you think about an exercise like a Romanian deadlift, you're putting your hamstrings under a maximal stretch with a very heavy load. If you think about an exercise like a chest supported row, you have a massive stretch and a heavy load. If you think about a Bulgarian split squat, you don't have as much stability. So that's like another thing we would consider right there, but you're taking muscle groups through an extended range of motion with a fairly heavy load. And so while conventional deadlifts are a good exercise for building strength, power, all of these other components, because no muscles are maximally put under stretch, it often falls by the wayside. It often struggles to be a maximum muscle builder, especially when we factor in the other components. Take, for example, a conventional deadlift. It's the most demanding exercise most people will do in the gym, right? It's going to require a ton of central nervous system output. Your lower back can get very fatigued doing it. And as a result, what can happen, especially if you don't have the right combination of volume and load, your overall recovery and ability to train other muscle groups is going to be compromised elsewhere. And so, for example, if you are so smashed from doing a workout with conventional deadlifts that you cannot maximally train your lower body because your lower back is so fatigued, you're going to run into issues. If you cannot train as frequently because you're not fully recovering from those training sessions as you would otherwise because you're pushing your deadlift so hard, your overall ability to build lean muscle is therefore compromised. And so what I want to highlight here is that it's not that deadlifts are a bad option. It doesn't mean that you can't even do deadlifts when it comes to a muscle building phase. It just comes down to what is the optimal exercise selection when it comes to a particular goal. And so for me personally, will I still do conventional deadlifts? Will I still plan them in for my clients? I will. But they have to be done with a lower volume. They have to be done with complete rest periods. They have to be done with lower overall set and rep schemes so we can get the right stimulus, building strength, central nervous system activation, muscle fiber recruitment, all of those things that I mentioned previously, without the overall training demand being so high that it's actually going to prevent you from training other areas of your body to the maximum ability. And this doesn't mean that deadlifts are a bad exercise, right? Again, they have so many different benefits, and they will build a certain density and power look, especially that guys are looking for when it comes to building up your back and posterior chain. But as a pure muscle builder, there are better options than using a conventional deadlift, especially with the set and rep schemes that are often recommended for building strength and muscle. Like the idea of doing 5x10 with a conventional deadlift and using a pretty heavy load, you're going to be absolutely thrashed for the entire week. But if you do dial back the volume, you can still make incredible progress using the conventional deadlift as an exercise. As a pure muscle builder, though, a much better option here would be an exercise like a Romanian deadlift. As previously mentioned, a Romanian deadlift is going to allow you to get a maximum stretch all the way through the hamstrings and a great stretch through the glutes where you can build those muscles much more effectively, right? So it's about picking the right exercise for the right tool or at the right time versus just picking exercises because they're hardcore, because they're badass. Again, it doesn't mean that you can't do them, just there's a better way to do things. All right, next up, overrated, underrated. Overrated for muscle growth would be pre-workout supplements, but underrated for muscle growth is basic creatine monohydrate. Now, one of the first things that I hear, and we see this all the time on social media, is like, hey, what supplements should I take? I'm trying to build muscle now. If we want to look at what actually matters, if we want to talk about like the big rocks, Supplements are a very small piece of the puzzle when it comes to building an incredible body. Yet it's what most people spend most of their money on. It's what most people look for immediately, mostly because the marketing for supplements is so damn good. But what we need to understand here is we don't need supplements, and we do not need to spend a boatload of money on most pre-workout supplements. Now, what we want to look at in terms of pre-workout supplements, like what are the actual ingredients here? And so what happens is a lot of companies, what they'll do is they will load up a pre-workout supplement with stimulants, right? So caffeine being the primary one, and very low or amounts of active ingredients like L-citrulline and beta-alanine, both which are good pre-workout ingredients. And so what happens is you start taking a pre-workout, you're bouncing off the walls because you're having enough caffeine to wake up a sleeping horse. And pretty soon, like you feel this response, you're wired up and you're good to go, right? Well, here's what happens. First, people get hyper reliant on pre-workout supplements to the point where they need 300 to 500 milligrams of caffeine just to get a workout in. If they don't have it, their workout absolutely sucks. Second, if you're always relying on an external stimulant to get amped up for a workout and to get going, you're not really building the internal benefits. You're not building the internal drive, the discipline, and the things that are needed to be able to radically transform your body. One of the key tenets of Bach Performance is fitness is a force multiplier. When you do dial in your fitness and the habits that come from transforming your body, these can help you transform your life in so many different areas. But if you're always using stimulants as a crutch to wake up and get in the gym, you really start to diminish some of the inherent discipline, grit, and determination that you can build by taking your workout seriously and just getting the job done. In addition, many people, what they'll do is they will use pre-workout supplements that are, again, highly filled with stimulants to the point where they are compromising their sleep and their recovery. That's not good, right? When we're not getting good sleep, when we're not getting good recovery, the hard workouts that you're doing in the gym that you're probably overshooting because you're wired up like a crackhead, well, guess what? You're not going to be able to recover from those hard workouts, and therefore the results that you're getting from the workout are going to be diminished. And so a lot of people look for a pre-workout supplement as like the one thing that they need to really get going and really get dialed in. Reality is most pre-workout supplements are crap. If you're looking for one that I do recommend, I would say Legion has a great stimulant-free pre-workout pulse. Strawberry kiwi is bomb. If you are interested in that, check it out. And if you want to save 20%, use the code BACH. That'll save you a little bit there. But if you're looking for something that is a proven ingredient, a proven supplement that works incredibly well, basic creatine monohydrate. No, you don't need fancy creatine. You don't need all of these different types of creatine that are out there that say you're not going to gain water weight. One of the benefits of using basic creatine monohydrate is better hydration at the cellular level, meaning, yes, you will have some water weight. A basic creatine monohydrate, most specifically Creapure, which is a common ingredient that you'll see in a good quality creatine supplement, is going to improve your body's ability to repeatedly generate high velocity, high intensity muscular contractions. This means creatine monohydrate is going to improve the way that your body down at the cellular level is able to consistently lift heavy, to generate force with things that need like power, like a sprint or a power clean. And when you have basic creatine monohydrate and you can do heavier weights, explosive exercises for more reps, guess what? That improves the actual quality of the training that you are having. In addition, a basic creatine monohydrate is going to help overall improve muscle protein synthesis down to the cellular level. So you don't need to waste your money on all these crazy ass pre-workout supplements that cost like $50 and you need 2 scoops every time just to get something out of it. A basic creatine monohydrate is fine. Take 5 grams, take it every single day, take it at the same time. It doesn't have to be before a workout. It doesn't have to be after a workout because it is not a stimulatory type supplement. You can take it whenever is going to be best for you and stick with it consistently. Personally, I will take it first thing in the morning, when I'm drinking a greens drink, and voila, then we are all set. So you don't need pre-workout supplements, but a great option is a basic creatine monohydrate. The next thing that's incredibly overrated for muscle growth is over-the-counter testosterone boosters. The majority of testosterone boosters are based on cherry-picked research that highlights maybe an animal study or something similar that maybe enhances sex drive or directly had like a very small increase in terms of testosterone. Yet these things are marketed for, $50 to $100 a month, for something that's not really doing anything. So when it comes to testosterone, here's what we should do. Every 6 months, you should do a comprehensive blood panel that includes a hormone panel. The vast majority of people that think they need to improve their testosterone have no idea what their testosterone levels are. And if they're spending money on a testosterone boosting supplement and they are not actually knowing whether they are improving their testosterone or not, like what are we actually doing here? You're just wasting money. right? So take some of the money you would spend on a testosterone booster and just get a comprehensive blood panel so you can actually make an informed decision on what specific hormones or variables inside of your body need to be improved based on what's actually happening under the hood. That would be my first recommendation. Second recommendation, something that's underrated for muscle growth, is dialing in your sleep and your sleep quality. I saw a study, the Chicago Sleep Study, and this looked at men. I believe they were college-age males, and it was men who averaged 5 hours of sleep or less for 5 days in a row decreased their testosterone levels by about 20%. Now, think about how much sleep that you get, or somebody that you know. How many people get 5, 6 hours of sleep? Probably a lot of people, right? We're looking for magical testosterone boosters, things that are going to be designed to make us horny, increase our libido, that makes us think that our testosterone is actually growing up, and wasting money on that. The reality is the best thing that we can do to naturally improve our hormone levels is get adequate sleep. When we don't get adequate sleep, every physiological process inside of our body is downregulated. The ones that are going to help us build muscle, the ones that are going to help us lose body fat, the ones that are going to help us perform at our best mentally, the ones that are going to help us stay disciplined and avoid feeling anxious and depressed, are all improved from improving our sleep. So it's not about testosterone boosters. It's not about whatever protocol that Huberman comes up with directly on his podcast or, Momentous or whatever he's selling, right? It's about dialing into things and the lifestyle that are going to help support optimal testosterone production first, before we look at any of these. Then before we go to looking at testosterone boosting supplements, take some time and go through and actually get some blood work done. I use company Blokes. That's what I recommend for our clients. For our women, we use Choose Joy, Joi, and a comprehensive blood panel every 6 months will give you a good baseline foundation of where your hormone levels actually are, and even things like vitamin and mineral status, so you can make the best informed decisions that you can with supplements, right? So overrated for muscle growth, testosterone boosters; underrated for muscle growth, sleep. I highly recommend getting regular blood work so you actually know what's going on under the hood. So you're not taking supplements that, one, often don't work, two, often carry a lot of side effects, and three, they might not actually be solving a problem because you don't even know if that problem is actually the problem. So get some blood work done so you can make better informed decisions. Next up in the overrated, underrated battle. Overrated, pull-ups and chin-ups, whereas lat pull-downs and inverted rows are underrated. Now, let me explain. Again, I love pull-ups, I love chin-ups, but many people run into issues with their overhead pulling mechanics, meaning most people first cannot press overhead without compromising through the kinetic chain. For example, if you look at most people who do an overhead press, guess what? They arch through their lower back, and then the weight, whether it's a dumbbell, whether it's a barbell, drifts directly in front of their body, and they kind of more or less have a curved posture versus a joint stacked vertical posture. So when you cannot press directly overhead, your shoulder's in a compromising position when it comes to trying to build your shoulders, which is why exercises like, for example, a single arm press can be a great alternative to a barbell press, why a landmine press can be a great alternative to an overhead press. The same thing is also true with pull-ups and chin-ups, because most people cannot get into a great overhead position. Whenever they try to do a pull-up or a chin-up, their form is absolutely dog crap. And so if we're doing an exercise with terrible positioning and we cannot ideally hold that position without compromising our technique up and down the kinetic chain, then we are adding volume on top of dysfunction. When you add volume on top of dysfunction with an exercise, you are breeding long-term issues when it comes to injuries. In addition, on pull-ups and chin-ups, most people are so weak that they cannot actually do enough volume on pull-ups and chin-ups to be able to make them an effective muscle building exercise. This is why we see a lot of people start doing all this kipping bullshit that you see in CrossFit, or it looks like they're dry humping the air just trying to get up for their reps, or they dramatically shorten the range of motion. So it's not that pull-ups and chin-ups themselves are just terrible exercises, but what we always have to do is look at an exercise from the perspective of, well, what does the rep execution look like for the vast majority of people? And for the vast majority of people, they cannot get into overhead positions safely, and they do not have the prerequisite strength on pull-ups and chin-ups to really be able to do enough volume to make it an effective muscle building exercise. And so it doesn't mean that I don't program pull-ups and chin-ups for my clients, but the best way to program pull-ups and chin-ups for the vast majority of people is to treat it like a performance exercise. We want to build your ability to do pull-ups and chin-ups through first increasing the range of motion that you have directly and improving overhead mechanics. In addition, then we want to be able to gradually build strength. So we want to treat pull-ups and chin-ups like a deadlift, in that we want to be able to focus on building strength primarily, so we can be able to control every inch of the rep first. Once you get to the point where you can do pull-ups and chin-ups for 8 to 12 reps with perfect technique, then it really becomes a great exercise for building lean muscle. But even then, we have to be a little bit careful because a lot of people run into issues in terms of wrist, elbow, and shoulder pain, and pull-ups can make them often worse based on the combination of what we have in terms of like people sitting all day behind a desk, but also just unbalanced programming from years of, well, unbalanced programming. And so for a lot of people, I've found that using lat pull downs as an exercise and using even inverted rows or jackknife pull-ups is a better lat building exercise than pull-ups and chin-ups. The reasons are, first, people can do them with great technique without beating up their body. When you can do an exercise with great technique without beating up your body, it allows you to train harder, allows you to train closer to failure. It allows you to train closer to failure while maintaining good technique and therefore preventing injuries. When you can do that consistently, that is what's going to be able to create a lot more muscle growth. In addition, speaking specifically about lat pull downs, when we have more external stability on an exercise, we can generate more force directly within a muscle. And so where a lot of people start wiggling and kipping and doing all this weird shit when it comes to pull-ups and chin-ups, a lat pull-down becomes a great way to lock in your lower torso while being able to control every inch of the rep and create a lot more force and tension inside of those muscle fibers. So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do pull-ups and chin-ups, but you should treat them more like a performance exercise and really focus on how well you can execute the exercise before you try to do a ton of volume directly with it. While you're doing that, while you're building your strength, while you're building your technique with pull-ups and chin-ups, hit more volume with an exercise like lat pull-downs, jackknife pull-ups, or even inverted rows. And that way you have the perfect blend for building your lats and building your posterior chain. The next underrated component for muscle growth is going to be trying to build muscle and losing body fat at the same time. Now, if you talk to the vast majority of people, what do they want to do? I want to lose fat. I want to build muscle. Awesome. Well, here's what most people do about that. They start to train with a very high volume, like a bodybuilder style training volume, and then they cut down on the calories, thinking, hey, if I just train more to build muscle and then eat less, I'll lose fat. It doesn't work that way. You see, there's a delicate balance between what our training looks like and what our nutrition looks like in conjunction with that training. For example, when you're trying to lose body fat, your ability to recover is actually going to be compromised. Therefore, you should probably have less training volume in the gym with a higher intensity. Conversely, when we are trying to build lean muscle, guess what? We're consuming a calorie surplus. Therefore, we can handle a bit more training volume based on our ability to recover directly from that. And so where a lot of people fall apart is they try to train too much, and then they try to eat too little. And then pretty soon what happens, they start to feel small, nothing is working. So then they dramatically increase their calories. And so people get stuck in this bulk cut, bulk cut, bulk cut cycle because they either feel too skinny because they take it too far, or they feel like they're getting too fat, and therefore then they self-sabotage when it comes to building muscle, then they start to cut again. And pretty soon what happens is you have people that are actually working really hard in the gym, and they are getting after these training sessions, but their body isn't changing. What I've found to actually be a much better solution for the vast majority of people is to focus primarily on getting lean first. And so for men, we're talking 12 to 15% body fat. And the reason is, and 12 to 15% body fat, by the way, like if you're looking for an approximation, like you should have some abdominal visibility at this point. If you have a gut, like if you look down and you're in the shower and you can't see your ding dong, you need to cut. That's just the reality of it, right? What we want to be able to do is we want to get to that 12 to 15% body fat spot before really embarking on a bulk. That's unless you're really, really skinny. The reason is, once you get leaner, your body is going to more effectively take the calories that you will need to build lean muscle and partition them. So getting leaner improves your nutrient partitioning. This is why most bodybuilders, most physique athletes, when they want to build muscle, they get cut first. At the back end of a show, the back end of a photo shoot is the perfect time to gradually build lean muscle because your body is going to take the calorie surplus that you have. It's going to break down those nutrients more effectively and help you build lean muscle while minimizing fat gain. Now, if you try to build muscle and you are overweight and you're fat, can you see some results? Of course you can. That's because you're deconditioned. There's no problem with that. Like, I'm happy for you. I want you to see that. But the reality is, like, once you leave those kind of beginner stages of training, it's exponentially more effective to pick one goal, building muscle or losing fat, making that the primary emphasis. When you make that the primary emphasis, guess what? If your protein intake is high enough and you're training hard enough, yeah, you can still have a bit of a recomposition effect. But where people get into a lot of issues is they start to straddle both of these things at the same time. They end up getting nowhere. So if you want to be able to build muscle, get cut first. When you get cut, your body's going to break down the nutrients that you're consuming more effectively. It's going to help you stay leaner. It's going to help you build lean muscle more effectively. And at the same time, if your training is dialed in, and your workouts are dialed in and your protein timing is dialed in specifically around your workouts, you can still continue to see some size gains as you go through that cut. But the expectation of maximally building muscle and maximally losing body fat and taking too many different signals and shoving them in your body, it's not going to work. Get lean first, you will build muscle more effectively over time. The next exercise that's overrated for muscle growth is the barbell bench press. And again, I love the barbell bench press. It's something that does make an appearance in my programming, in the program I do for my clients. And you know what? I enjoy it. But the reality is for the vast majority of people, their technique on a barbell bench press is not up to par. And the shoulder injuries that happen from the barbell bench press hit so many lifters that they prevent them from training properly in many different ways. In addition, a barbell bench press is not a great chest builder as much as it is a builder of your triceps and your anterior delts. If you want to maximally build your chest, one of the best things that you can do is hit a number of different angles. And frankly, using dumbbells is going to be a much better option. Now, a better option if you want to be able to build your chest is a 15-degree dumbbell incline press. This very slight angle is going to help you train your chest more effectively and bias the exercise towards the chest more so than using a flat bench press. In addition, when you're using dumbbells, you're building individual stability within each arm versus having the stability of just one barbell. A lot of people run into shoulder issues directly from training and from sport, and then that imbalance becomes very obvious when they come to do a barbell exercise like a bench. So if you've got one arm that kind of drifts behind the other one, if you're coming up sideways, if you've got one side that lags behind the other, you've got an imbalance that's brewing. And those imbalances over time are what lead to injuries. So a much better exercise for many people is going to be a 15-degree dumbbell incline press, both from it hitting the chest more effectively, but when you're using the dumbbells, you're going to build that individual stability. And what we want to do is tuck the elbows down at around a 45-degree angle in alignment with that 15-degree incline is really going to align the press and the forces on the press with the fibers of the pec. And so when you do that, you can apply similar set schemes, similar rep schemes as you would in the barbell bench press, but the 15-degree press is going to be a much better muscle builder while keeping your shoulders healthier. Coming up next, rest periods. Short 45-second rest periods are overrated for muscle growth and frankly, fat loss. Underrated 2 to 3 minute rest periods. If we're talking about finishers, you're trying to get a pump at the very end of a workout, yeah, that's one thing. Having a short rest period, that's fine because the goal of some of those exercises is to get a pump, create that metabolic stress, which is a muscle building cofactor. But I see a lot of people who go in the gym and everything is 30-second rest, 45-second rest. Everything is a exercise circuit, right? Well, the reality is that's not what is going to optimally build lean muscle, even if it feels like you're fatiguing those muscles much more. Instead, what we want to have is a longer rest period. 2 to 3 minutes has been shown in plenty of studies and frankly, by people who are strong to be superior for building lean muscle. And here's why. The rest periods that you are taking directly during exercise, they're not just about you not being out of breath anymore. We have a recovery of our central nervous system. We have our ability to focus. When we are not resting long enough, our body's ability to actually send signals from our brain to our muscles to conduct these intense muscular contractions is compromised. That's why when elite level strength athletes or like if you're working with elite level athletes who are trying to develop speed, trying to develop power, have a long rest period. It's not because they're out of breath. It's not because they're deconditioned. It's because the central nervous system, which really is a governor for everything in your body, needs more time to actually recover and help you create these high velocity, high intensity muscular contractions that are ideal for muscle growth. So for the vast majority of people, what they should be doing is taking 2 to 3 minute rest periods after the majority of their sets. When you do this, you're giving your body enough time, the ability to actually recover and then generate maximum amounts of force, making each set that you do in the gym more effective. You will get stronger, you will get bigger, your technique will improve dramatically when you take longer rest periods. What we know is when it comes to your training, it's not about doing as much as humanly possible. It's about making every rep count. It's about controlling every inch of every rep. And for the vast majority of people who don't have all day to train, the vast majority of people who need to be able to get in the gym and out with the most effective workout possible, actually slowing down, taking longer rest periods, but pushing these exercises directly closer to failure is crucial. And now you might be thinking like, oh my God, that seems like so much time. Workout won't even be hard. If it's not hard, still after 2 to 3 minutes of rest, you probably don't know how to train as effectively as you think you do. I know it's hard to hear sometimes, but like after a set of 8 reps on a squat, I need every bit of 2 to 3 minutes, sometimes longer before I can get under that bar again, right? Like you should be taking exercises close to failure on your work sets where that 2 to 3 minutes, like you might actually be wanting a little bit more. So do not underestimate how important the rest periods actually are when it comes to your training, because feeling out of breath, feeling your muscles burn, like, is that a cool thing? Sure. But maybe save that for the end of your workout. If you want to make the most out of your workouts, you need to be taking these exercises close to the point of failure, where you should need 2 to 3 minutes of rest and recovery in order to get back under the bar and then generate high levels of force again. That will lead to such effective training and strength and muscle growth that your training and your body will then transform. Finally, the most overrated thing for muscle growth is piecing together random exercises, cool workouts from social media into a plan and thinking that that is going to work. Imagine if you were trying to build an investment portfolio and you just closed your eyes and picked like random stocks that people talked about everywhere with having no direction, no plan, no rhyme, no reason, no ultimate goal. It probably wouldn't work out too well, right? That's the way that most people approach exercise. They pick out random exercises from social media, they pick out random diet advice, and it doesn't really work. A much better option is actually getting and completing full workout programs that have a diet that is built specifically to correspond with it. You see, effective training isn't just picking out exercises. It's not just picking out a training split. It's about how does your training, how does it coordinate directly with your nutrition and with your lifestyle? And how do these things work in synergy, right? Let me give you a common example. I see a lot of people will want to lose body fat and they'll go low carb, they'll go low calorie, and then they'll go a ton of high intensity exercise. In addition, they also sleep about 6 hours a night. They're chronically stressed at home and at work. Well, guess what? When we have a situation like that, we have a calorie deficit, very stressful. We have low carb, very stressful. We have high intensity exercise, pretty intense, a lot of stress from personal life, and poor sleep. So what happens here? People, inevitably, they work really well for 2.5 to 3 weeks. Then they get stressed out. It doesn't feel sustainable. They binge, they backslide, they stop training, and then they're like, hey, damn, that didn't really work. I guess this isn't for me. But the reality is what we need to have that alignment between the type of training that we're doing, the type of diet, nutrition plan that we're following, and factor in our lifestyle. Because ultimately what it comes down to, it's about setting our body the right signal and being able to stick with it consistently. And so in the case of muscle growth, for example, the more stressed you are with everything else in your life, probably the lower your training volume should be, and the more sleep that we actually need. If you can't get enough sleep, well, guess what? Well, training probably needs to go down as well. If you're consistently running into issues with work and not completing workouts on time, well, guess what? Well, we probably have to adjust your workout split so you can stay consistently when life is chaotic instead of trying to have it when it's perfect. And so the biggest concept to understand here is, it's not that like trying out different things is bad. It's not that you shouldn't enjoy the style of training that you're doing. But if you don't have a plan, and if you don't have a program that really factors in your training, your nutrition, your lifestyle all together and how they interact with each other, you end up working really hard, doing things that are individually in a vacuum good, but not quite getting the results that you want specifically. And that's where a lot of people find themselves really stressed out. And I empathize with that because I did the same thing for years. And you know what changed it for me? It changed when I got my first coach. And when I got my first coach, it showed me that, again, exercise, that training is not just about these individual variables. It's about a system. And when you have a system that is built specifically for you, when you have a system that improves your life versus consumes it, that is how you get that long-term sustainable approach and can make that permanent transformation. So if that's something you're looking for, if you want to radically change your body, you have to understand that success comes from the ruthless execution of the basics. And when you get that plan that's built for you, that fitness can be a force multiplier and improve every other area of your life. Now, if you want help with this specifically, if you want our full money back guaranteed transformation program that's going to help you look great naked without living in the gym, all you have to do, go to bachperformance.com/coaching. That'll tell you everything about the coaching program. Fill out that short application on the bottom, and we will hop on a short call to break down what exactly needs to be done for you to be able to make the best transformation in your life. Gang, that is it for me today. Until the next time, success comes down to the ruthless execution of the basics. Have a good one.
Hey, it's Eric here again. Now, there are 3 ways that I can help you look great naked. Number 1, if you want to grab a free copy of the Look Great Naked protocol to help you lose body fat without counting calories, then go to bachperformance.com/free training. Number 2, if you're a busy guy looking to build muscle, then I recommend checking out our Minimalist Muscle Blitz, which has helped over 1,000 men build muscle without living in the gym. Just go to minimalistmuscleblitz.com. The link will also be available in the show notes. Or number 3 and last, if you want to work with me directly and get the best results possible, apply at bachperformance.com/coaching to look great naked without living in the gym. Until next time, my friend.